Guest speaker today, a surprise, Raymond Naylor, a sophomore at Verrado High School. He's a member of the JV football team, the varsity wrestling team, and varsity track. He serves on the City of Buckeyes Youth Council. He brings a unique appreciation for veterans in our military. He's an Air Force brat. Grew up the son of an F-16 pilot, who I think is here. There he is. He's also the grandson and great-grandson of Air Force pilots on both sides of the family, and I think they're here. Thank you, gentlemen. Together they have combat hours in Enduring Freedom, Vietnam, the Korean War, and World War II. Ray's mission today is to convey the sacrifices of the military veterans to his generation and ensure their legacy is not forgotten. I give you Raymond Naylor.
We stand here today amidst the 101st anniversary of the First World War, known by its participants as the War to End All Wars. Unfortunately, as many of you here can attest to personally, this turned out to be anything but true. In the years that followed, conflicts of unseen scale and consequence shaped our world in ways we never could have possibly imagined. What your sacrifices, as veterans of the armed forces, means to the world is more than can be stated in mere words alone. Your actions have brought liberty, freedom, stability, and justice, not just to your countries, but to the entire world. My name is Raymond Day Naylor V, and through my blood runs a long line of soldiery. My bloodline, filled mostly by pilots, has served in every major conflict since the bombs first fell on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. With this event came a call to arms, heard throughout the country to join the global struggle that had been raging throughout the planet for the past 2 years. To answer this call came millions of young men, eager to serve their country. My great-grandfather is one such man who heard this call, and fought both on the ground and air in one of the Pacific's most brutal campaigns of Guadalcanal. He knew, as did all the other young men, that without a doubt their country was behind them. From the war factories worked by women to produce millions of tons of supplies, to the children collecting scrap metal in the streets, all leading back to the men fighting on the front line. This is a picture of a country united, a country that is strong, a country so devoted to a common goal that they could not be defeated. But in the years that followed the end of the war, many grew tired. With the end of World War II, the U.S. was left with 16 million men waiting to go home and return to normalcy. Few had the patience for another war, yet war, as always, was still inevitable. In a conflict known as the Korean War, American boys once again willingly put their lives on the line for another man's freedom in a country far from their home. It was here that our country began to change from the state of unity that it had known during World War II. Korea ended with an armistice, leaving many to wonder why we had lost so many for seemingly no gain. This kind of reasoning would only grow as the United States entered yet another conflict, Vietnam. By this time, satellite technology was available, allowing public audience for the first time to follow the war almost as if they were there to witness it themselves. Many couldn't handle the harsh realities of war and turned their rage upon their own soldiers, hurling fists and insults at them alike. This to me is one of the greatest disgraces in American history. These men were soldiers. These men fought for their country, they fought for their people, and they fought for one another. They did what their country asked of them. Nothing more. To disrespect men like that in such a way is disgraceful to our entire country. As the veterans of America, you stood for the greatest cause on earth, freedom. You have stood for us so that we may live a free and full life under this beautiful flag which I stand beneath now. I feel as though there are many in the country, and sadly, many in my generation, who have forgotten and taken for granted much of what we have today. Many blame their own problems of the modern society on you and forget to thank you for everything you have and are still giving them. Please know that this is not true of all of us. In the hearts of every true American, your sacrifices ring true. All of the blood, sweat, tears, and lives you have spent on us are remembered in a fashion that is impossible to forget. Now, I don't mean to claim that those others I spoke of are any less American for not remembering. I mean only to say that they have forgotten and must be reminded. The world should know that the price of our freedom, the very foundation of our great civilization, did not come without a price, and it never will. It came off your backs. It came off your desire to serve something greater than yourself. It came from a fighting spirit that I believe is unique to the American people. For our very nation was forged in the crucible of war, in a war so very different, yet still also the same. Yes, warfare has changed over the years, but the most crucial part of it has not. The ultimate sacrifice of war has not. Only when a mother does not have to mourn the loss of her child, a community, the loss of their cherished youth, and a brother, or a soldier, the loss of the most special bond of all, a brother in arms. Only when these things are no more can you make the claim to me that war has truly changed. Today is sometimes too easy to forget the scars that form from service. It is impossible for myself or anyone else that has not served to know what it was you personally went through. Each person in this world brings his own story, but the story of a veteran stands tallest among the rest. For a veteran has a better understanding of what life means, a better understanding of true friendship, and only a veteran can truly know of all the unspeakable evil capable of man, but also that it possesses unparalleled potential for good. By serving any branch, at any job, your service has made a difference to the world that perhaps you even yourself can't imagine. In recent times alone, our servicemen and women have liberated people suffering from states of terror, genocide, and religious oppression. We have done our best to avenge our own losses from the attack on our homeland in 2001, which shook what we thought to be our untouchable homeland. It was with that attack by the Al-Qaeda terrorist group that we see the perfect example of the American fighting spirit. In a feat for which I do not think our nation has seen since the days of World War II, as I discussed earlier, our nation was completely united, an entire people behind a common goal. After all, politics and political differences can be set aside to avenge the death of 2,977 people killed in a deliberate attack on not Republicans or Democrats, but on innocent Americans as a whole. This led to a new calling, a calling for new young men and women, a call which was answered by many. Through this attack came a series of conflicts, mostly in the Middle Eastern regions of the world. I grew up in an Air Force family, and as such, these conflicts affected me directly. My father was a pilot, as was his father and his father before him. I spent my childhood moving around the world into a position where my dad could best support the war effort. I remember one night living in Aviano, Italy, when my father, in the middle of the night, had to leave. He could not tell us where he was going, for that was a secret. He could only tell us that he had to leave and did not know when he would be back. My mom was terrified of us not knowing where he was, and we turned on the news that morning to find out that the U.S. had started supporting a rebel movement in Libya using airstrikes from my dad's squadron. Even before this, I remember my father leaving to go fight the war in Afghanistan against the very people who started this string of conflicts in the first place. I'm extremely proud of what my dad did for this country, and I'm lucky to have been raised around the unique culture of the United States Air Force. And that is why I speak so strongly of remembrance today. The thought of my father, my grandfathers, my great-grandfathers, and all the men they served behind, their service being forgotten, hurts my very soul. What they did out of selflessness. They did out of devotion to their country and our way of life. They did it thinking of their families back home, their friends flying beside them, and their brothers in arms they had never met, struggling in a firefight on the ground below them. It is my dream to one day share this honor and service with all of them, as well as many of those of you here. It is an honor that is earned, an honor that should be respected, an honor that is unparalleled to that of any other honor, an honor that is not to be forgotten. It is an honor that some bear in scars both on their skin and in their hearts, and others in death, having paid the ultimate price upon this altar of freedom. It is our job as the living to not have let them made such a sacrifice in vain. We must remember to live to our greatest potential, to love this freedom for which they so believed in. and to recognize how lucky we are to live in a place where such men and women ever lived on this earth. For this freedom and truth belongs to all of our servicemen and women, both living and deceased, and is merely something the rest of us have inherited until we have truly earned it. Until that time, our freedom belongs to you, as those who fought for us ensured that we would know that we truly knew what it meant to be free. Veterans of America, both living and deceased, thank you for your service.